Welcome everybody to look at another new Indicator release, and it is 1955's Queen Bee. So this is directed by Ranald McDougall, who I've not seen anything else from before as a director, but he was also a prolific screenwriter. He wrote the screenplay for this film, but he also did 5 other films that I've seen before, the likes of Mildred Pierce and Possessed, also starring Joan Crawford, who is the lead role in this once again. But he also did the really rather fantastic film The Breaking Point. So this is a melodrama clocking in at 95 minutes long. Like I said, it does star Joan Crawford in the leading role. Already talked about her in Harriet Craig, another Indicator release I recently reviewed. So we talked about the likes of Johnny Guitar, Mildred Pierce, Sudden Fear, and Possessed in that review. But she also had plenty of 60s efforts that were pretty good as well, like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and Straitjacket, one of my favourite William Castle films. This film also stars Barry Sullivan, who I've seen in 9 other films, although my absolute favourite from him would be 40 Guns, directed by Samuel Fuller. And then we've also got John Ireland in this, who I've seen in 16 other films like Run Man Run, 55 Days at Peking, and I Shot Jesse James, another Samuel Fuller film. So, yeah, domineering socialite Eva and her alcoholic husband Avery are trapped in a hostile and loveless marriage. When Eva's cousin Jennifer comes to stay, she is sucked into a dangerous whirlwind of lies and vengeance. So, on the whole, this feels very similar to Harriet Craig, and not just because Joan Crawford is playing another unlikable character, but unlike that film where only her character is hard to get along with, there are at least a couple more for her to compete against for the least likable person. But she is once again, uh, she is the one who is the least redeemable out of all of them. But that said, she is also once again great in that role. She really does savor the nastiness and the meanness and the controlling ways that she has, and she really does nail it in that regard. And the supporting cast is also good. It is also well paced. The cinematography is on point. It is generally engrossing. The character interactions are well written, especially when there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of arguments and shouting and trying to get one up on each other. And the conclusion is satisfyingly done. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but it is a really rather satisfyingly done conclusion. As yeah, basically there's a misunderstanding, and that ends up in rather tragic circumstances for at least 2 characters in the film. So yeah, like with Harriet Craig, we get a printed disc with reversible sleeve artwork, which I don't think actually properly conveys the whole mood of the film. In fact, I don't think either do that, quite frankly. But I guess you could see, at least on her face, that she's not as entirely comfortable with the person kissing her, whereas this one makes it look more like a romance, which this film certainly is not. And yeah, like also with Harriet Craig, we get a nice big book. Well, I won't say big, but a decently sized booklet. And again, either shots from the film or behind the scenes. And inside the booklet, you get your casting, your crew, and then we get Poisoned Honey by Imogen Sarah Smith from 2025. And there's a quote in the film here called that says, "I'm an outsider and they hate outsiders," and that's said by Eva Phillips, played by Joan Crawford. And yeah, and again, as per usual, we'll get shots from the film. And yeah, so yeah, again, like Harriet Craig, it is very much restricted to a limited amount of sets, which again are used really rather effectively. So that I would say, on the whole, I feel like Harriet Craig gets across her character a little bit better, while the fact that she is genuinely the only abrasive and unlikable character in that film, it helps elevate the other characters. Whereas in this one, pretty much everyone is at each other's necks, and yeah, it's just not as convincing in that regard. And then we also get Joan Crawford, Queen Bee. So this is the last page of a 4-page insert in Motion Picture Herald advertising Queen Bee in October 1955, and it took the form of a letter signed by Abe Montague, who was Executive Vice President of the Columbia Pictures Corporation. So I'm not going to read all that out because that is quite lengthy. And then we also have critical response. So, unsurprisingly, critics focus their reviews on both the character of Eva Phillips and Joan Crawford's portrayal of her. As Bosley Crowther wrote in the New York Times, let's say the role that Joan Crawford plays in Columbia's Queen Bee is that of a honey you love to hate. And then we also have about the presentation, special thanks, acknowledgements, and indicator credits as well. So, yeah, much like with Harriet Craig, we have a high definition remaster of the film. And yeah, that has been sourced from Sony's HD remaster. The film's original mono soundtrack was remastered at the same time, just the same as Harriet Craig, and the film does look and sound just as good as that film as well. We've also got audio commentary with Little White Lies editor David Jenkins from 2025. A Sting in the Tail from 2025, clocking in at 19 minutes long. And that's academic and film historian Lise Lankman, who discusses the making of the film and its place within Crawford's filmography. She also did that with the Harriet Craig film. And yeah, I think it's a she. It could well be here. I have not actually looked them up. But then we got a Fit for a Queen from 2025, clocking in at 24 minutes long. So film historian and curator Nathalie Morris even explores the career of iconic Hollywood costume designer Jean-Louis, with a special focus on his work at Columbia Pictures from 1944 to 1960. Then we've got the original theatrical trailer and image galleries, as well as new and improved English subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing. And yeah, this is again a world premiere on Blu-ray, and it is again limited to 3,000 copies for the UK, just the same as Harriet Craig. So yeah, it's really cool that we've got 2 more of Joan Crawford's films on Blu-ray. There might not be the the ultimate restoration. I imagine at some point maybe these will get a 2K scan or a 4K scan or even a 4K Ultra HD release. But quite frankly, where boutique labels right now are in their current golden age, I would say, is just getting as many films that haven't had a release before out on Blu-ray for the first time, and that is highly commendable. But like I said, maybe 10-15 years time you will get a an upgraded version of this at some point. Would be nice to have a big full fat Joan Crawford box set, quite frankly, of as many of her films as possible, especially the ultimate classics. But yeah, indicator of done I think some of her films in the past, but her filmography has been spread amongst other boutique labels like Criterion and Eureka. So yeah, maybe that will be a little bit hard to get a hold of as a box set, but still, as a fan of hers, I would like to see more of hers on physical release, quite frankly, as yeah, they have all been so far pretty good. This isn't an absolute favourite of mine though from her. I would say it's a 3.5 out of 5, which is half a star less than Harriet Craig, but it is still on the whole a really rather worthwhile watch. So yeah, get out there and see it if you haven't already. But nonetheless, thank you for watching. If you have seen this film before, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.